This is for Education 631, Week 3. Cognitive load theory. It suggested that learners can observe and retain information effectively only if it is provided in such a way that does not overload their mental capacity. In other words, our short-term memory or our working memory can only retain a certain amount of information stimulously rather than an infinity supply of data. The more information that is delivered at once, the more likely that the students will not actually learn, or adults will not actually learn what is being taught, nor will they be able to call upon that information for later use. Cognitive load theory states that each person has a mental skimmage, which is a series of structures that enable us to solve problems and to think. It also allows us to look at several different elements within a lesson or an experience and treat those elements as just one element, whole element. In other words, it is what forms our knowledge base. According to this theory, there is key distinctions between apprentice and masters, which is the factor that apprentice has not built up or developed skimmage the master has. Now I'm going to look at how there's three different type of cognitive load theory. One of them is intricts, which is the complex that inherently involved in certain tasks or material. Simply put, some activities are harder to learn to master than others. If they are more difficult, then they have potential to cause instrict cognitive overload. The second one is extrinsic. This form of cognitive load consists of non-relevant, unimportant elements such as activities or instructional material that makes the learner use their mental process. For an example, if you use a graph that requires extra information processed but is not really necessary, this would be an example of extra overload, cognitive overload. The third one is germane. This element enables the learner to devote their cognitive mental resources to the learning process and have to facilitate the difference of learning knowledge base. Now, when I was teaching for J. Sargent Reynolds Community College, one of the things I had to learn was how do you apply e-learning with cognitive load theory. In order for real learning to take place, it has to be structured and altered according to cognitive loading theory. If this occurs, learners will actually be able to grasp the information that is being provided, process it within their short-term working memory, and finally commit to it in long-term memory. In this case, they will be able to build upon previously learned information so they can expand on their knowledge base. Three things that we had to learn with e-learning course design when I was teaching online was number one, we had to keep it simple. We had to remove all the content that isn't absolutely necessary for the loading process. Two, we had to use a different type of instructional techniques, present information in different ways. For instance, offer some data verbally and some data visually, because some people are good with hearing it, some people have to see it. This allows the learner to absorb information using different process methods, which will increase the cognitive overload. The third thing we had to do was to make learning bite sizes. Divide the content up into smaller lessons and encourage them to only move forward with the course when they have fully grasped the current material. This will ensure that they do not overload their working memory and can effectively move the information to their long-term memory. To conclude this, If you want to design an e-learning course that are most effective and beneficial for your students or employee or distant education, then you must keep in mind that there are certain cognitive load limits. Overwhelming their mental pathway and structures will only lead to errors and a lack of comprehensive, with successfully instructional design worst nightmare in every aspect. Thank you.